Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other socials for more. Enjoy. I can't believe we've never noticed this place before, Heather whispered, her eyes wide as she took in the curious surroundings. She ran her finger along a shelf, leaving a clean streak in its wake. Dave shrugged, his gaze drawn to a collection of antique pocket watches. It's like it just appeared out of nowhere. As they ventured deeper into the shop, the floorboards creaked beneath their feet. Heather's attention was caught by a display case filled with intricate jewelry, while Dave found himself drawn to a bookshelf laden with leather-bound tomes. "Welcome, my dears," a raspy voice called out from the shadows. An elderly woman emerged, her silver hair pulled back in a tight bun and her eyes twinkling with mischief. "I don't get many visitors these days. What brings you to my humble establishment?" Heather turned, startled by the sudden appearance. "Oh, we were just browsing. You have such fascinating items." The old woman smiled, revealing a set of surprisingly white teeth. "Everything here has a story, my dear, but I sense you're looking for something special." She shuffled over to the jewelry case and retrieved a peculiar necklace. 2 identical pendants hung from a single chain, each adorned with a swirling design that seemed to move if you looked at it too long. "This might interest you," she said, holding it out to Heather. "It's not just any ordinary necklace. It has unique properties." Dave moved closer, eyeing the necklace skeptically. "What kind of properties?" The old woman's smile widened. "It allows the wearers to swap bodies." Heather laughed nervously. "That's impossible." "Is it?" the woman countered. "In a world full of wonders, who's to say what's possible and what isn't?" Dave scoffed. "Come on, Heather, this is ridiculous." But Heather couldn't take her eyes off the necklace. "How much?" The old woman named a price that made Dave's eyes bulge. "That's insane! For a piece of costume jewelry?" "It's not about the materials, young man. It's about the power it holds," the woman replied calmly. To Dave's astonishment, Heather pulled out her credit card. "I'll take it." "Heather, you can't be serious," Dave protested. But the transaction was already complete. The old woman placed the necklace in a velvet box and handed it to Heather with a knowing smile. "Use it wisely," she advised. As they left the shop, Dave turned to look back, but the storefront had vanished, replaced by a blank brick wall. "What the?" he muttered, blinking in confusion. Heather clutched the box to her chest, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Let's try it out when we get home." Dave sighed, resigning himself to his wife's latest whim. "Fine, but when nothing happens, I get to say, 'I told you so.'" The drive home was filled with Heather's animated chatter about the possibilities, while Dave remained skeptical. As soon as they entered their apartment, Heather rushed to the bedroom to open the box. "Okay, so how is this supposed to work?" Dave asked, crossing his arms as he leaned against the doorframe. Heather held up the necklace, the 2 pendants glinting in the light. "We each wear one of the pendants, and then, I guess we just wait?" Dave rolled his eyes, but allowed Heather to fasten one of the pendants around his neck. She put on the other, and they stood facing each other, waiting. "See? Nothing's happening," Dave said after a few moments. "Can we take these off now?" But as he reached for the clasp, a strange sensation washed over him. The room began to spin, and he felt as if he were being pulled out of his own body. He squeezed his eyes shut, fighting against the vertigo. When the feeling subsided, Dave opened his eyes and found himself staring at himself. But it wasn't a mirror image. The Dave in front of him was touching his face in wonder, eyes wide with shock. "Oh my God," his own voice said, but it wasn't him speaking. It worked! Dave looked down and saw Heather's body. His body now. He lifted his hands, smaller and more delicate than he was used to, with perfectly manicured nails. "This is impossible," he said, but the voice that came out was Heather's. Heather, in Dave's body, was practically bouncing with excitement. "Can you believe it? We actually switched bodies." Dave stumbled slightly, unused to the different center of gravity. "This is insane. We need to switch back right now." "Oh, come on," Heather pouted, the expression looking odd on Dave's usually stoic face. "Don't you want to explore this a little? It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." Dave sighed, the sound higher pitched than he was accustomed to. "Fine, but just for a little while, okay?" Heather grinned, Dave's face lighting up in a way it rarely did. "Deal! Oh, this is going to be so much fun." As the hours passed, Dave found himself reluctantly drawn into Heather's enthusiasm. They explored their new bodies, marveling at the differences in strength, flexibility, and sensation. Heather delighted in Dave's physical prowess, while Dave was fascinated by the heightened sense of touch he experienced in Heather's body. "Your skin is so sensitive," he remarked, running his hands along his arms. "Is it always like this?" Heather nodded, looking amused. "Welcome to being a woman, honey. Everything feels more intense." As evening approached, Dave began to feel uneasy. "All right, we've had our fun. Let's switch back now." Heather's face fell. "Already? But we've barely scratched the surface. Don't you want to see what it's like to go out like this?" Dave shook his head emphatically. "No way. This was interesting, but I want my body back." "Just one more day," Heather pleaded. "Please, I promise we'll switch back tomorrow night." Dave hesitated, torn between his desire to return to normalcy and his curiosity about experiencing more of life from Heather's perspective. Finally, he relented. "One more day. That's it." Heather squealed with delight, the sound incongruous coming from Dave's body. "You won't regret it." But as Dave lay in bed that night, acutely aware of the unfamiliar curves and contours of his temporary body, he couldn't shake the feeling that he might have made a mistake. The next morning, Dave woke to the disorienting sensation of being in the wrong body. He blinked sleepily, taking in the sight of his own sleeping form next to him, Heather in his body. The events of the previous day came rushing back, and he groaned softly. As he sat up, he became acutely aware of the differences in his current form. The long hair that fell around his shoulders, the weight on his chest, the absence of certain familiar anatomy. It was all so foreign. He stumbled to the bathroom, still unsteady on Heather's smaller feet. Staring at his reflection, Heather's reflection, in the mirror, Dave ran a hand through the long chestnut hair. "How do women deal with this every day?" he muttered, trying to untangle a knot with his fingers. "Practice," came Heather's voice from the doorway, but it was Dave's body leaning against the frame, a smirk on his face. "And a lot of conditioner." Dave turned, crossing his arms over his chest self-consciously. "This is so weird." Heather's grin widened. "I know, isn't it great? Come on, we need to get ready for work." Dave's eyes widened in alarm. "Work? We can't go to work like this." "Why not?" Heather asked, already rummaging through Dave's closet. "It'll be fun. Besides, we can't just call in sick. We have that big presentation today, remember?" Dave groaned, remembering the important client meeting scheduled for that afternoon. "This is a disaster waiting to happen." "It'll be fine," Heather assured him, pulling out one of Dave's suits. "Just act natural. I'll do the presentation since I'm in your body. You just have to sit there and look pretty." Dave glared at her, the expression feeling strange on Heather's delicate features. "And what am I supposed to wear?" Heather's eyes lit up. "Oh, I have the perfect outfit." Before Dave could protest, Heather was pulling clothes out of her side of the closet. She held up a form-fitting red dress and a pair of black stilettos. "No way!" Dave said firmly. "I can't wear that." "Why not?" Heather pouted. "I wear it to work all the time. You'll look great." After much arguing and a near meltdown, Dave found himself squeezed into the red dress, teetering on heels that felt like torture devices. Heather had insisted on doing his makeup, an experience that left him feeling even more out of his depth. "I look ridiculous," Dave grumbled, tugging at the hem of the dress. Heather, looking sharp in Dave's best suit, grinned. "You look hot. Now let's go knock 'em dead." The workday was a surreal experience for both of them. Dave struggled to navigate the office in heels, acutely aware of the way Heather's body moved and the attention it attracted. He found himself blushing furiously every time a male colleague's gaze lingered a bit too long. Heather, on the other hand, seemed to be reveling in her newfound masculinity. She strode through the office with confidence, her handshake firm, her voice authoritative. Dave watched in amazement as she charmed clients and commanded respect from coworkers who usually dismissed her. The presentation went surprisingly well, with Heather nailing Dave's part while Dave managed to contribute Heather's usual insightful comments. As they left the conference room, Heather pulled Dave aside, her eyes shining with excitement. "Did you see that?" she whispered. "They actually listened to me." "Well, but it was me talking." Dave nodded, a mix of emotions swirling inside him. "Yeah, I saw. It's different, isn't it?" Heather's expression softened. "Is this what it's like for you all the time? To be taken seriously without having to fight for it?" Dave shrugged uncomfortably. "I guess I never really thought about it." As they drove home that evening, both were lost in thought, processing the day's experiences. Dave was relieved to kick off the painful heels as soon as they entered the apartment, while Heather loosened the tie with a sigh of contentment. "So," Heather said, flopping onto the couch in a decidedly un-Dave-like manner, "what did you think?" Dave sank into the armchair, mindful of the short skirt. "It was eye-opening. I had no idea how much effort goes into being a woman. The clothes, the makeup, the constant awareness of how you're perceived. It's exhausting." Heather nodded. "Now you know why I sometimes take forever to get ready." "But wasn't it exciting? To experience life from a completely different perspective?" Dave had to admit there was some truth to that. "It was interesting," he conceded. "But I'm ready to switch back now." Heather's face fell. "Already? But there's so much more we could explore." Dave shook his head firmly. "We had a deal. One more day, that's what we agreed on." Heather bit her lip, an odd expression on Dave's face. What if we extended it just for a little while longer?" "Absolutely not," Dave said, standing up. "I want my body back, Heather. This has been fun, but it's time to return to normal." Heather stood as well, using Dave's height to loom over him. "Come on, Dave. Don't you want to see what it's like to live as me for a while? To really understand what my life is like?" Dave took a step back, unnerved by the intensity in his own eyes. "I think I've seen enough. We need to switch back now." But as he reached for the necklace, Heather caught his wrist. "I'm not ready," she said, her voice low and determined. "We're staying like this for now." Dave's eyes widened in shock. "You can't be serious, Heather. This isn't funny." "I'm not joking," Heather replied, her grip tightening. "I've never felt so alive, so respected. I'm not giving that up yet." A chill ran down Dave's spine as he realized the gravity of the situation. "Heather, please. This isn't right. We can't stay like this." But Heather's expression remained resolute. "We can, and we will. At least for a while longer. You'll see, Dave. This is good for both of us." As the reality of his situation sank in, Dave felt a wave of panic rising in his chest. He was trapped in his wife's body, forced to live her life, with no idea when or if he'd ever get his own body back. The days that followed were a blur of confusion and frustration for Dave. Each morning he woke up hoping it had all been a bizarre dream, only to be confronted with the reality of Heather's body in the mirror. The routine of applying makeup, styling long hair, and squeezing into uncomfortable clothes became a daily battle. Heather, on the other hand, seemed to be thriving. She threw herself into Dave's work with gusto, impressing his bosses and clients alike. At home, she reveled in the physical strength of Dave's body, taking up jogging and even joining a local sports team. "You see," she said one evening, flexing Dave's muscles in front of the mirror. "This is amazing. I've never felt so powerful, so in control." Dave, curled up on the couch in one of Heather's flowing skirts, sighed. "I'm glad you're enjoying yourself. But this can't go on forever. When are we switching back? Heather's expression hardened. Not yet. I'm not ready. And what about what I want? Dave demanded, his voice rising in pitch. Don't I get a say in this? You've had a say your whole life, Heather retorted. Now it's my turn. As weeks turned into months, Dave found himself reluctantly adapting to life in Heather's body. He learned to walk in heels without stumbling, mastered the art of applying eyeliner, and even started to appreciate some aspects of femininity he'd never understood before. But the strain on their relationship was becoming unbearable. They argued constantly, their roles in the relationship shifting in ways neither of them had anticipated. Dave felt increasingly helpless and frustrated, while Heather became more domineering and dismissive of his concerns. One particularly tense evening, after another heated argument about switching back, Dave found himself alone in their bedroom, tears of frustration streaming down his face. He caught sight of himself in the full-length mirror, Heather's petite form draped in a silk nightgown, mascara running down his cheeks. This isn't me, he whispered, touching the unfamiliar face in the mirror. I can't do this anymore. In that moment, Dave made a decision. If Heather wouldn't willingly switch back, he'd have to find another way. He began researching, spending hours online looking for any information about body swapping or the mysterious shop where they'd bought the necklace. His search led him down a rabbit hole of occult forums and obscure mythology. Late one night, when Heather was sound asleep, Dave snuck out of the apartment, armed with the information he'd gathered. He made his way to the location where the shop had been, hoping against hope that it might reappear. To his amazement, as he rounded the corner, he saw a faint light spilling from a window that hadn't been there before. Heart pounding, Dave pushed open the door, the familiar jingle of the bell sending a shiver down his spine. The shop looked exactly as it had months ago, dusty and cramped, filled with curious objects. "I've been expecting you," came the raspy voice of the old woman. She emerged from the shadows, her eyes twinkling with the same mischievous light. "Having second thoughts about your purchase?" Dave swallowed hard. "Please," he said, Heather's voice trembling. "I need to switch back. Can you help me?" The old woman smiled, revealing those unnaturally white teeth. "The necklace has a will of its own, my dear. It responds to the deepest desires of those who wear it. If you truly wish to return to your original form, you must confront the truth of why you switched in the first place." Dave frowned. "What do you mean? It was just curiosity, a whim." The woman shook her head. "Was it? Or was there something more? Something unspoken between you and your wife?" As Dave pondered her words, memories flooded back. The subtle tensions in their marriage, the unspoken resentments, the curiosity about each other's lives that had led them to this point. He realized with a start that the body swap hadn't created their problems. It had merely brought them to the surface. I think I understand," Dave said slowly. "But how do I fix this?" The old woman placed a gnarled hand on his arm. "Communication, my dear. True, honest communication. Only when you both truly understand and accept each other can the necklace's magic be undone." Dave left the shop with a newfound determination. As he made his way home, he realized that the key to reclaiming his body and saving his marriage lay in confronting the issues they'd both been avoiding. The next morning, Dave woke Heather early. "We need to talk," he said, his resolve firm despite the unfamiliar voice. Heather blinked sleepily, confusion evident on Dave's face. "What's going on?" Dave took a deep breath. "I want to switch back, Heather, but more than that, I want to understand. Why are you so reluctant to return to your own body?" Heather's expression crumpled, and to Dave's surprise, tears welled up in his own eyes. I don't know if I can go back," she whispered. "Being in your body, it's like I finally have the respect and authority I've always wanted. People listen to me. They take me seriously. I don't want to give that up." Dave felt a pang of guilt. "I had no idea you felt that way. Why didn't you ever tell me?" "I didn't know how," Heather admitted. "I was afraid you wouldn't understand. They spent hours talking, really talking, for the first time in years." Dave shared his own insecurities and fears, the pressure he felt to always be strong and in control. Heather opened up about her frustrations with being underestimated and overlooked in her career and personal life. As they bared their souls to each other, something shifted. The air around them seemed to shimmer, and a warmth spread from the pendants they wore. "Dave," Heather gasped, her eyes wide. I think it's happening." The room began to spin, that familiar vertigo washing over them. When it subsided, Dave found himself staring into Heather's eyes, her real eyes, in her own face. They had switched back. Overwhelmed with emotion, they embraced, laughing and crying at the same time. The necklace lay between them, its job done. In the days that followed, Dave and Heather worked to apply the lessons they'd learned from their body-swapping experience. Dave made a conscious effort to support Heather in her career, using his influence to ensure her voice was heard. Heather, in turn, opened up more about her feelings and needs, no longer bottling up her frustrations. They returned to the location of the mysterious shop, intending to return the necklace, but found only a blank brick wall. The shop, it seemed, had vanished as mysteriously as it had appeared. As they stood hand in hand, staring at the empty space where their adventure had begun, Dave squeezed Heather's hand. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "in a weird way, I'm glad this happened. It taught us so much about each other." Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more wonderful content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.